So today we have lightning talks. I'm going first. Tom is going second, and then we'll have Eric and Eric. I forget which Eric is first, which Eric is second, but.
Time. Do rock, paper, scissors for it.
We also have some sweet lightning talks. We could have some discussion, and then in the future, if you have something you want to discuss about, in me or Tom, and we'd be happy to get you on the schedule to share your people knowledge. Awesome. Anything else, Tom? Are we good to?
I think we're good to go.
Sweet. So I wanted to talk about speaking in tech, which is something I'm doing, which is cool. And it kind of follows a story, but first a little bit about me. So my name is Boston Kare. I'm a software engineer here at Vision. I grew up in Colorado. I've been in tech about 4 years. I most recently moved to St. George from North Carolina. I really like going. That's my jam. I also really like Formula One. So I'm not actually a race car driver. The AI really helps me out with this stuff. They did a good job. I'm impressed. So I want to kind of go back to 2019. It was my first year in tech, and I went to a conference, Microsoft Ignite Tour. It was like a mini version of Ignite, which is huge, right, in Florida. But it was a mini version. I remember going there, and I saw some of the presenters there, the cloud advocates that Microsoft had sent out. I was like, wow, that's such a cool job to just go around and share the cool things that you do, right? It's their job to go and share how to use their products and see people's faces. They learn and help them. I thought that was really cool. That was really inspiring to me. So we fast forward to 2022, this last year. I remember waking up one day and I was like, I should speak at a conference this year. I don't really like public speaking. So I was like, why am I feeling this way? But I thought I should. So I decided that year I wanted to speak at one conference. So that was my goal. So I started looking for some things. I was sort of trying to find out why I really wanted to speak in tech. And there's a bunch of benefits that come from speaking in tech, which is really cool. So first, you get to learn a lot. So coming to these events, going to big conferences, you get to see lots of other speakers, you get to learn, you get to get knowledge that you wouldn't have anywhere else, right? Second is networking. So the main reason why we're all here tonight is you can get the chance to meet other people outside of your normal workday, get to talk to people in your community and even outside of your community that still engineers, right? Which is really cool. Group brainstorming. This is one that I wasn't immediate to me until I did speak, is that you get to share your opinion. And as I'm sure many of you have learned in your life, that everybody else has an opinion as well. And they really like to share that. So I shared my opinion, and then I immediately got all these opinions back about what I did and what was right about, what was wrong about, all that. And it's kind of like a big brainstorming session, right? From people that you wouldn't normally interact with. It was really cool. Another one is your personal brand goes up. Speaking really sets you apart from others. It allows you to showcase your skills in a way that is easier for, I don't know, other opportunities or other communities to see you. It really helps your personal brand. And lastly, sometimes they pay you to speak at big conferences, which is cool. So there's also money there. So I started looking at how I would start. And really, it comes down to this call for papers, right? Which is where these conferences put out this request, say, hey, we want people to speak at this conference. It'll be these dates. This is what we want it to be about. So send in your proposals. So some things I learned when I was doing that, so you don't have to be an expert. That was the big deterrent for me at first, is I'm not an expert in anything. I'm going to go up there and all these people back there are going to be smarter than me. They're not going to learn anything from me, right? But I think that's not really true. You can learn from anybody, especially when you're sharing, you learn a lot more. And so you don't have to be an expert. You just need to know to be able to talk about it. Then the next thing is, when you make a proposal, you want to be as detailed as you really possibly can. When I first started, I did 2 proposals. I was like, I want to speak on this topic. And I gave like 1 paragraph description of what it was. And all those got rejected. And the main feedback was, we still don't know what you're going to talk about. I was like, okay, it was clear in my head, but I needed to get that across to them. So you want to put as much information as you can. You want to follow the guidelines. I saw this statistic online earlier this week that something like 40% of proposals to conferences aren't following the guidelines and get immediately thrown out. There's a crazy amount of these engineers and people wanting to speak just aren't following the rules that were set out, right? Focus on your audience. This is a huge one. The reviewers are looking for people that that will bring people to the conference. So you want to focus on doing something that's interesting to everybody and who really is going to be there. Another part of that is like, you're not going to go to a Go conference and try to convince people to write Go, right? And in the same way with JavaScript, you want to go there and try to convince them why JavaScript is great. You want to share something about it rather than why you like it, right? Then the last thing is the same with job application. If you're looking for a job or anything like that, is submit as much as you can. It can really be a numbers game. So I really like this quote from Dave Cheney, or Cheney. He said, to put it bluntly, reviewers are looking for talks that people will pay to see. And this might sound capitalistic, but it turns out that this is what the audience wants as well. It's kind of funny to think about that. You're only going to pay to go see talks that you want to see, and that's what the reviewers are looking for as well. So prepare something that you would actually go and see. So I took all this information and I submitted to 5 or 6 different conferences. I prepared 3 different proposals and I submitted to 6 of them. And I was able to speak this last year, which was really cool for me. I spoke at Go West up north, and then I also spoke at Go Lab, which was based in Italy. That was remote, but unfortunately I couldn't go out there, but it was really cool. So I had that opportunity, and then immediately after, I learned so many things. I got through it. These are the 2 places I spoke at, Go Lab, Go West. I got through it and I learned awesome things. First, I just needed to go for it. So I was nervous. I didn't know if I could even do it. My first 5 proposals were rejected, but I just wanted to keep going. And it's been huge for my career. I've gained a lot of public speaking. I now have the opportunity to come and network with all of you. Thanks to it, it's some really cool things. Another thing I learned is to always write your ideas down and have a way to capture a good capturing platform, right? My first 3 or 4 talks were not really good ideas because I sat there brainstorming what should I speak about. But then as I went throughout my day, I'd come up with random ideas, or thoughts in the shower, as many people call it, right? I come up with those, and those were the perfect ones. And those were the ones that got across, which is really cool. And then lastly, keeping in touch after the conference. So after you speak here, or even with all of you and the people I talked to at the conferences I attended, keeping in touch has been awesome to grow my network, right? So great example is I said, Mariah, we should have a meetup down here. And then I met Tom, and then I met all of you, which was really cool. So this is all grown from me just wanting to speak this last year. And I think that's some really cool growth you can see from it. So that was my lightning talk. I think we should all prepare to speak, and it also helps us find speakers for the meetup. So thank you. It's awesome. Awesome. Tom, you're welcome to come stand up.
All right.
The production value bar high there.
Yeah. My slides don't look that good.
Keynote is, it was great. Are you able to share your screen?
Yeah, it's disabled. Can you allow a screen share?
A lot of overlap.
Yeah.
So,
All right, I'll be able to share.
restart my slide.
If you have slides to share, we'll do it over Zoom. Is that okay?
Yeah.
The link should be in the meetup, so. Like the
Josh Aikens, RSVP.
Okay, I gotta jump around and bring the slide.
Is it working or no? There we go.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Slide. So, I'm going to be talking about just kind of trends in web last year, and also my year working at Kala. So I left it a year ago, and joined Paula. It's a startup. It's about a year old. So we've been able to basically start fresh with a new infrastructure with all the shiny new toys that we wanted to use. And there are some things that I learned that I thought would do really well that didn't do as well as I thought. And other things that I have learned in the past year that I did not even consider before. So yeah, we'll look at a little bit. So my role at Kala is more front end. So I'm involved in all front end infrastructure and technology choices. And so we'll be talking about some of these things. And also, last year was really big for CSS in terms of just more CSS capabilities on the web. And I think that's going to have some actual impact on technology. And then we're going to discuss how we can get like this guy and hook up. So first off, these are the three features in CSS that I want to point out because I think they illustrate the movement there. There's container queries, which are basically like media queries, except for you set them on an arbitrary DOM element. And what this does, right, with media query, that's actually not bad. So it allows you to adapt the style to whatever the size of your element is, or with media queries, it was the size of your window. So like in this example, it looks like it's not doing all that much, but if you consider just a dashboard versus like a calendar page, right? You want to like update on your dashboard. You have a very primitive way to create reusable components, right? In CSS, which if you have done front-end engineering, you might see that you have components like small, schedule small, or schedule big. You make different components for it and have them plugged in different areas. So I think this is actually a really cool thing.
I think that will like, I don't know if we're supposed
yeah,
to ask
no.
questions. I don't wanna know. Will that like, you think it will replace like the queries?
Yeah, I think in a lot of places it will. Yeah. It's more general purpose.
Yeah.
And this has pseudo selector. So when I was learning CSS, like when I was a baby developer, 10 years ago, I was really frustrated by the fact that I couldn't like select a parent element. I thought it was like a really big oversight. Well, now you can in a way. I think this is a good example of how that works. Basically here, what we're doing, we have a gallery, right? And so we're saying, hey, if our image gallery has anything that's got a hover state on it, then we nest down, and any of our images do not have that hover state, we're going to scale them down and change the opacity. So you get this, yeah, you get this UI, right? And the best part about it is there's zero JavaScript here. So with those two things alone, you have CSS that's a lot more flexible, a lot more like design oriented, animation oriented. And I think a lot of times as developers in our web projects, we just don't mess with that stuff because there's no, the cost to reward isn't worth it. So I think we're moving to the where it is. Lastly, in CSS, there's the view transition. And this is only on Chrome, but what it does is it takes a snapshot of your page before and after a network event, and then allows you to animate different things between those two snapshots. And this is stuff that you'll see in like iOS and Android development. There's primitives there that allow them to do this. So now the web is going to be able to do that too. Well, Chrome and like 10 years, maybe Safari. So in terms of trends, so I was a big MUI fanboy, or I worked at Paula. And I would get frustrated writing like styles in CSS files. because they're just a mess. So, over the last year, there's been a lot of hype towards Tailwind. I tried it out. I get the hype now. I think one of the dirty secrets is if you use any of these style systems or component library, you're still spending a lot of time writing inline styles. So to me, it makes sense to go with the utility classes first. So yeah, this illustrates the breakdown between the different types of CSS frameworks and tools. Or your CSS++, which is like your preprocessors and your transpilers, style systems like Bootstrap, and then your libraries. And over the last year, I've been the CSS++ that's been getting the most love. And I think that I think it actually plays into the fact that we have a whole bunch of new JavaScript frameworks coming around too. And just the portability of just going with CSS words for all of that. So yeah, I would have, in retrospect, so I used MUI framework over last year. And in retrospect, I would have chosen Tailwind. So that's so then JS trends. So I'm a really big fan of TypeScript, and I have been pushing for end-to-end type safety for like last 3 years. And then TRPC comes around and everyone's all of a sudden thinks it's a good idea. TRPC, I think it's done one good thing in that it's kind of made people aware that it's like possible. But I actually think it's much more accessible than most people think. Like Postgres and MySQL, GraphQL, all of those have different plugins that can generate types from your data source. And then those types are typically compatible with OpenAPI or JSON schema, which all have tons of code generation tools around them. So there's been some end-to-end type safety, but I don't think we've seen enough. And if you're not doing it, I think you're losing money. The other thing that we saw was center stack frameworks. And here's the thing, like frameworks in JavaScript are like hotcakes, they're like a dime a dozen or whatever. These, like they have big companies buying them, right? So like Next.js is owned by Vercel, Remix was bought by Shopify, Solid Start, the guy that maintains that, he's hired full-time by Netlify. So like these are really cool. I don't think the application is going to go anywhere, but it's basically if you need server-side technology in your apps, I don't think like trying these is that big a risk. They're all really cool. So yeah, predictions. Center stacks are going to just take over. Monorepos, they're awesome. We started from day one with the monorepo at Paula, and it was a very good investment. We're using NX, and it just speeds things up a lot. Yeah, and I think that the TypeScript, like not having TypeScript, would have made these things a lot less valuable. But if you have a monorepo, type and invert, it just ties things together really well. And then in terms of the center stack, just giving control to the person that owns the UI, right? Like they can control the network, everything from the network and the data to everything that's cached. It just provides the optimal development, and I think UX. So yeah. So then lastly, I want to point out the browser is like a super powerful operating system. It has a lot of capabilities. And there's a few that are in development that I think are going to really kind of close the gap between native apps and browser apps, particularly the file system and the background operations. And right now, support for these is just from browsers. But yeah, so I I think there's an argument to be made that if you're trying to make an app, you have to consider what platform to build it on. I don't think that it's just Android or iOS. I think web apps in Chrome actually do well. And then also, I think iOS dominance in the US market probably stifling EWA adoption. And they'll close by saying each and every iPhone user is complicit. It's like that web development. So yeah, that's kind of a whirlwind overview of, I guess, the things I've thought about for the last year. Questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, I miss, are you using TRPC currently, or did you figure that out
So
before it was cool?
yeah, I actually did.
Okay.
But the thing is, we're doing gRPC, and you have plugins to that create open API schemas,
Okay,
and open API has tons of code generation. So we go gRPC, open API to TypeScript, and then we just have factory functions for all the data models that we get.
okay.
And the really cool thing there is it's everything's type safe, right? So development's really fast. Like I know what properties exist on the model and all that. But also when you set it up so that your CI/CD is checking your TypeScript build. Now you have end-to-end contract testing basically with your implementation against the interface. So it's really cool.
Do you use MSW? Mark Service Worker, I'm just curious for tests or Storybook or anything like that.
Testing?
Well, I guess I'm thinking about like end-to-end safety and one practice that we've moved towards is starting in MSW. So instead of like marking out lower level stuff in the tests, you could run, say, an integration test with MSW where it would act as your API, so all of your actual code is exercising. And then you could like reuse that in Storybook and tests then you get like that type safety throughout. I'm curious.
That's cool. We actually, so one of the kind of philosophies that we started with at Kala was schema first. So we declare the schema and then we actually generate a lot of the backend off that as well. And so since we're doing schema first, a lot of cases it's actually not possible to diverge from that because the core is all generated. So we actually don't do any of the MSW or server and tests or anything like that. We just stick to the convention we have.
I have to ask Zod, are you looking at it? Have you-
Yeah, Zod is cool. So yeah, that's I only played with it a little bit, but so like when you have all your types generated for you from the database, when you plug in something like Zod and attach it to a form, then you have really cool validation. It's like mostly generated. So yeah.
I guess one thing I think about with TypeScript is, can you have a false sense of safety? Where Zod will give you the really nice DX type safety, but then the runtime enforcement also.
Yeah.
I guess how often do you run into TypeScript is lying? Like TypeScript says this won't break, but it did.
So that's the thing. I think that's one of the biggest frustrations I hear is people don't. TypeScript's super powerful. It's like you could like what is it? Turing complete. You can solve an enigma and World War Second World War, right? You could do that with TypeScript. But if you don't know how to use it, like it doesn't work for you. So yeah, when people set up bad types, then you run into that. But if you're generating it, right? Like if it's generating from the source, then you don't run into the problem of bad types. It just doesn't happen. So yeah.
Well, and if you're doing the end-to-end type safety, because that's where I've seen that, is when your backend changed or that you did a type wrong, you're like, oh, this is going to give me this from the API, but it doesn't actually, or it doesn't always. That's when you have problems. And so when you have the type, end to end, solves a lot of
The
that.
aspirational front end types. This is what we hope the back end.
Yeah.
But with ERPC, you have to be doing TypeScript on the back end too, right?
Yeah, I think it's a full stack.
That's what I was thinking.
So, yeah, you create your models and then I think it generates.
And then, so in your mono repo, you have your Go services in the mono repo too?
No, we just have a script that generates all the types off of a separate repo. So our mono repo consists of everything that would be front end related. And then we have a separate project for our schema definition. And that's also separated from the backend. So it's abstracted from any implementation and also precursor to all of the.
You have any advice for JavaScript developers that don't want to take on more OS responsibilities? Keep having to.
Yeah, I guess. Going back. Yeah, no, I think that the JavaScript world. It's one of the, it changes a lot faster than I think other areas. So like, when I started, I was doing Bootstrap and React, and now it's like, we're kind of not loving React as much as we were. Looking at these other things. But I think that like at Weeb, I was doing Go, and when they had like a Go 1.8 update or something, it's been like 3 years, and there's like, I don't even know what they changed to this.
Every year they do new ones. I mean.
Yeah, but what did they
Yeah,
change?
Okay,
It's like,
backwards compatible.
yeah, it does the fast with. It's one of the fun things,
And the frustrating thing.
and frustrating.
You're waiting on the change.
So, yep. Thank you, Ron. Let's say, please.
All right, which Eric is going?
I'll go for it.
Here's something more exciting, so you should do.
So Eric.
Yeah, no pressure,
Bring us
no
all the
pressure.
boring.
Yeah.
All right.
I can attest to everything Tom said.
Well, I picked a specific, one of those points that Tom had in his presentation, so I'm going to be talking about other. So. Start clapping now if you want. So. Who here has used Slack huddles? Right, Hangouts. Okay. Sure. We've all been using these things, and WebRTC has been silently making them possible.
Unsung hero.
Yeah. So I'm right now, my role at Weave, I'm building their soft phone. So Weave has this soft phone they're releasing, so I'm running that show.
What's a soft phone?
Soft phone is like a phone, but it communicates via the web, via RTC.
VYP.
I'm sure Anthony probably has way more knowledge about this than I do, so I'm just gonna. If I get stuck, it's not him answer. So why is WebRTC worth talking about? So standardized peer-to-peer connections across any device or browser. So the applications of this are live video and audio calls, as we all benefit from. Live simultaneous work. So a peer-to-peer connection means two devices, they're talking directly to each other. They're not going through some proxy server. So they might be using some server for signaling. They're telling each other they're going to open a connection or close a connection, but they're sending data directly to each other. It makes the latency very low and it makes the cost really cheap. So live simultaneous work, multiplayer gaming and streaming, connecting to IoT devices, cryptocurrency, and remote access, like logging into your. So things that were like a lot of the stuff like simultaneous work. We'll see more and more of in the next years. So what does peer-to-peer mean? Kind of like what I just said. So a middleman, it's called a stun server, sits web somewhere. Two devices, that want to talk to each other. They both tell the stun server, hey, I want to talk to this person. And hey, I want to talk to this person. So they know each other's address, not IP address, but they know each other's address. And the stun server says, okay, this is this person's IP address, this is this person's IP address, and then they start talking directly to each other. So as these illustrations show, in the first one, media without WebRTC, you go through a web server and it sends you to the other browser. It can be Japan, you can try to talk to your neighbor, and it can go to Australia to talk to the web server and back to Japan. With WebRTC, you can talk directly to your neighbor. And part of the technology of WebRTC, it's not actually that revolutionary, but the standardization process is. The fact that it can get into all major browsers is what makes this such a big part of technology in our lives. So this is the protocol evolution. So network voice protocol was the first one in 1977. People were starting to play with this. And then in 1996, they came up with RTP and then H323 and then SIP.js or SIP is a protocol that almost everyone uses to control the signal. This is the browser compatibility. So if you remember some of these non-WebRTC programs like WebEx, BlueJeans, Skype, and GoToMeeting, you had to install plugin and you had to, it was just kind of bad. With WebRTC, you get better ones like Zoom and Slack. So JS provides a nice framework for dealing with WebRTC. Okay. So we're going to register. We've already been registered. So Alice is going to start this session.
So much hype.
Never mind, guys. There it is. Okay. All right. So we can see here that Bob registered and Alice, he received an invite from Alice to start this session. It started a session. And this is the signal. So if I were to if I wanted to bring someone else in, or if I wanted to change the media that I was sending, or I wanted to close the session, I would do that through signaling. So this is done through WebSockets, but the actual data transfer would be here. So you can always see these Chrome WebRTC internal. So they have a WebRTC server. Well, you can see on SIP.js, I don't know which browser, which tab it's on, but you can come in and look at the data that's being transferred. Kind of cool. And so that's WebRTC for you. So you might, as an engineer, I never thought I'd end up working in a WebRTC world, but for the last year I've been working on this. So. Any questions?
What are the encryption options?
So there's actually a lot. I don't know them off the top of my head because I just use the standard one. Chrome has a list of ones that you can choose from. I remember, I think it's called Opal. And did you know that? And questions I don't answer for.
Yeah.
Are you, with Weave, are you gonna plan on having your soft phones like talk directly to? I mean, they're all gonna go, they're not gonna be people talking point to point, right? They're gonna be going through like your media servers or how?
We have one called, we use Free Switch. It's
Uh-huh.
gonna go through Free Switch.
Okay.
But it basically just forwards it through.
Yeah,
And
it
then
allows you to record it.
it's network scoring stuff, yeah.
So is that something, like if you wanted to build sort of a custom, I'm thinking like screen sharing, like if you want to offer some customized remote support or I don't know if it's like coaching or something like a niche, is that something you could build like a custom application to like white label and like all of a sudden it feels like this really custom thing for clients to use?
Yeah, it's really, really easy. I mean, like, look. Show you this, show me how to establish a basic WebRTC connection in JavaScript. Here you go.
Oh, yeah.
Really, so Chrome, Google provides a list of, they're called stun servers. So they have a list of stun servers. So it's all built into Chrome, the APIs, you don't even need to bring in any third parties. If you bring in SIP.js or JSIP, it makes it even easier. They have an easy way of facilitating that, but you don't need to spin up your own servers. If you want, you can pay for on SIP, they have their own whole framework. But at first you probably.
Cool. I was holding back my open AI generated questions for you. Now we're getting into it though. This will be great segue for me. Look at that there.
Okay, thank you. Now we have other Eric.
Eric number 2. All right, I'll see if I can figure out screen sharing. One second.
Yeah, I think,
This is there.
sharing.
Oh, and then is the mic is just,
yeah, it's just in the room, so you're good.
oh, I don't do my audio. It's
Yeah.
Okay.
They already hear you.
Oh, perfect.
Big Brother's always listening.
Yeah, that's going. Okay, I can see myself. That's awkward. Had this for a minute. I guess I'll start by saying I don't have polished. And by polished, I mean, I don't have any slides. You know, I guess to say from your talk, Boston, I got a few things here. So subtext. I'm kind of here to talk about notes a little bit, the quick capture, like always capturing, getting ideas, the shower ideas. That excites me. I call them often my $100 ideas. Like that's where I have like, you know, this is tens or hundreds of dollars, you know, in the shower. But yeah, a couple things. So I'm here to talk about OpenAI, ChatGPT, and Obsidian or notes. PKM, personal knowledge management, and I guess I was just excited to come to this and talk about something. So these are the things I'm excited about. I've been excited about PKM and notes for a while now, maybe 2.5 years or so. I've been pretty heavy into that, and I think that's been important for my growth and success as a software engineer. Should introduce myself. My name is Eric. I'm a software engineer at Zapier. Which, you know, we're a fully remote company, so this is kind of fun, like real people. This is exciting for me. I've been there about 3.5 years, and the company's had tremendous growth. It's been a great growth opportunity for me. I've been able to go through the promotion process there, and you know, teams evolving focuses, internal transfers. Now another recent splitting up to. For leading the formation of a new team. And these are things that help me with that. So no real structure here other than we'll get around. I guess I want to maybe get a sense of, well, we all just saw it. Is anyone like not familiar with Chat GPT? Or is that a safe assumption? I think so, right? I'm kind of curious how many people have been using, say, OpenAI before Chat GPT came out. Is that less familiar? Like, you know, there's like OpenAI has like this interface that you know I was getting to use, and let me share my screen.
Like GPT-3.
Yeah, just the OpenAI playground.
Yeah.
So I will keep myself muted. Share. Everything here.
Kevin. We saw that.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, so let me check my notes here, yeah. Tom messaged me, are you gonna be able to do that? It's like. I'm on it. So here's the talk here, if I had slides. Which we could have this, turn this into slides. Yeah, anyway, so a few use cases, I've been using. It pretty heavily. I didn't quite even realize at that time it came out. I think it was like November 31st or something. My memory's a total blur. I think it was November 31st. It's like, oh, they finally I thought they were coming out with something new. It's like I'm using it. The next day I see it's like ChatGPT is down. It's like it's taking the internet by storm. I'm like telling people at work about it. I was like, oh my God, last night. It's like ChatGPT, it's like it's down, and eventually the availability got better with it and stuff. But so I can't claim credit, but I want to a little bit. This is just my excitement. That Sam Altman, he posted on Twitter, what's your wish list for ChatGPT? And I was like, I know it because I've been thinking about it. And what I wished for was this history. It's like I wish I could just give a name to it. Wouldn't lose the history every time. And then they came out with this. I think they were already building it. Maybe they got the idea from me, maybe not. I saved the tweet. I was like, I had the idea. That was one of my shower ideas.
Was the home sewing business a shower idea? I just want to know.
Oh, yeah. This is interesting. Okay, so I'm also here, plugging my wife's sewing Instagram. She's getting into it. So I've been getting into sewing, sewing videos. So let's just look here. We'll take a quick look at that. Where is the sewing? Oh, yeah. It's during this home sewing business. Like, oh, I guess to say an underlying usage, I'll say where I get out of it is, I've been pretty involved with like technical leadership or like leadership and pretty interested in like coaching and part of like peer coaching groups. So actually, I find a lot of value out of this from like coaching myself for like situations, like something that I find really interesting. And let me go into this lightning talk. I kind of brainstormed a couple ideas in here. Prepare for Chat GPT to just go down at any moment here. I am prepared. Oh, here we go. I got it dumped in my notes too. Right here. Okay. So a couple of things like taking ideas, and then I guess I use this a lot for technical writing. And I'll say ChatGPT is really good. Like the output of it is, I would say, a lot higher quality than what I was getting out of like the playground and stuff. I find using the playground directly, it's more like a utility. Like I jump in there, like I have something I know I need to do, and we'll just get it done. Like I don't want to chat, I have like something, and a lot of my presets are more like my work account here, but there's some early stuff. This was like, oh, this is pretty good. So this was like a recent project that I led like later last year. And the idea of just having it like generate like a markdown update, like, hey, here is sort of the announcement of the success of the project, and then taking this and elaborating on it. So I find OpenAI, ChatGPT and all of that, I think it's really interesting and novel for filling in skills gaps. Like, I don't know how to write Python. It can help me apply my TypeScript expertise to Python. But I think where it really shines is I'm really good at something, And I know some specific things to tap into to multiply that, so. Yeah, let's see here, I got a good one. Like, I would say it's really good at generating tests. It was really, I mean, I wrote the best tests that I've written in a while, like the other day. It was ChatGPT that got me started. I said, hey, here, we're using React testing library, there's a few code conventions that I want in here. Here's some specifics and outline. Here's some certain behaviors that I want to test. And then just paste in the source code for just that one React component. And the output, a beautiful test suite that I was able to like some very minor refactoring. And I was like, oh, that was like actually some really good test coverage for something that I needed to get done. And I got it done really quickly with that versus maybe not at all, you know. It's like, I could write the test. How often do I? But this is like, oh, reduce the friction. I know the test I need to write. I know how to describe it really well. And I think that's where, maybe like applying a little bit of higher level, like technical leadership. Like if you're good at delegating, I gotta think about like delegating to ChatGPT or OpenAI. Like that's really good. And a skill I've been building a lot at work. And professionally for a couple of years now is more like writing skills, like focus, like strategy and stuff. So like for example, just tapping into a few things like I'm making an upcoming project. I want like a high level project playbook. And again, this is like really shallow. You can give it a lot more context to say, here's some really specific books that are very relevant on my team and the organization. Like for me, Checklist Manifesto, Multipliers, Effective Engineer. And like, here's a checklist that is, here's where that idea came from. And this is where like, oh yeah, I'm familiar with these, like Checklist Manifesto. So yeah, I find that really interesting to invoke concepts from books and things, and I'm gonna mix that in. So let's see, I have no idea how we are on time. We're good. Okay, because I can go 5 minutes, I could go. I'll never stop.
We don't have that much time.
Yeah, so, okay, so this is Obsidian. And I'll give it a quick overview if people aren't familiar with it or haven't got a close look at it. It is notes. It's all Markdown based notes, and that's it on the surface. There's a lot of plugins and things you can do with it. It's a link based note system. So, like for example, these are links. So this is notes that have proven valuable. This is a note I have. Like this, I actually used to publish my website directly from this. They have a published plugin that is really good, actually. It's like most I was writing. I let it expire. It was a lot more used to what I was trying to like get ready to, job search or something, which I think the OpenAI and all of that is really useful for like the career. But the fact that I'm able to like put this kind of stuff together and like have a trail of notes, like I would say it's fairly career focused. I use it outside of career. But like, I guess what I want to show, I'm trying to do an example from the talks here, is like, tell me the benefits of end-to-end type safety. And I have OpenAI plugged right into the notes here. So here we go. I have this. I can go ahead, I can edit this, refine it, pull in my notes, maybe I have some notes. I can actually reverse some of the notes and gather some context. There's a particular plugin that I'm using in Obsidian for this. I also want to talk about the plugin I'm building for Obsidian for this. But that's one example. And like, it's kind of this like action plan. Like, oh, WebRTC, I don't know about that. But let's pretend that I'm leading a project that's called Team Connect. It's like I just like made this up. And like I said, that's kind of getting into like, I don't know about WebRTC. This is kind of like filling in the gaps. Like I can't really check this myself, but on the stuff I do know, I can check it really well. And it really helps. It's really multiplied memory writing stuff like where I'm a lot involved with a lot of discussions and things. I guess to say, there's an Obsidian AI plugin, and let me actually show, are you familiar with Excalibur? Like, Excalibur is a web-based, diagramming, sketching thing. There's a plugin that's really good that it's actually really powerful in Obsidian. So I have Excalibur right in Obsidian. So I'm able to like sketch all this. Like I can embed notes in this. I could embed this into notes and things. So all that to say, this is just like a free sketching thing here that this Obsidian AI plugin. This is just one example of something I have in here. So I go to like kind of this project-based note. This is like a side project thing, but it's kind of an example of how I use this. There's a particular book, I'll say Building a Second Brain is really a good book. I saw like a lot of hype around, the author and stuff, and I was really deep into PKM and stuff, and I thought, man, I was like, I don't know. I don't need to read that. And then I bought the book, and it's like, oh my God, he's right. Like all the stuff I've been doing is like, so if you're interested in this, I'll say project-based notes, and that's career or even personal, kind of feed into what are the current projects kind of thing. And there's a lot I could get into there. There's actually a concept, para. If you look that up, like para for notes, like this is it, like project first, resources, areas of responsibility. And I could give an example here, kind of also to show Obsidian. This is really raw. Obsidian, this is a fairly new feature that so really scala draw. You can draw on there. It's really useful for like just today. Actually this week twice. Kind of helping there the power diagram, the sequence diagrams in particular come in handy, and that's a skill that I've found really impactful, and helping teach that to other people has been really good. This idea of areas from here, like, okay, high level. And again, these are my notes that are embedded within this canvas. So Canvas allows you to sort of create a view into your notes and stuff and remix them. This idea of areas like, okay, health and self, fatherhood, like marriage, career, finances. That leads into a whole bunch of other stuff, like I said, this is just like a really surface level. This Canvas thing is really new, so that's kind of a rough look at it. Yeah, I think there was one thing I was getting to that hold up over time for me in a way. So again, this was pretty fueled by OpenAI. It's like, I had this idea. Let me brainstorm it with you. And like, especially once I got this like in my notes. But one tactic I'll say, and there's some other tangential things, like there's other tools that are considered like outliners, like Roam Research or LogSec. There's a few like those, where Obsidian is just purely markdown based. Let's see, you can see like this is just without the live preview on, you can see it's just raw markdown. This idea of log, like I said, I don't have slides. If I did, this would be better, maybe. But these concepts that I built for myself and how I organize my chaos, I've been able to apply and introduce to teams, and have been really impactful. Like, there's this idea of like a working doc, which I just like gave that name, and now it's grown into like this whole thing. And one part of that is like this log where, okay, this ties back to my daily notes. Like, I can link to the daily notes, say, okay, today kind of thing, or it's a date. And, that's the daily notes. This is like a snapshot or a session, like, okay, I had one focus session where I started sketching out the idea. Early morning session, I ended up with that sketch I showed earlier. ChatGPT coaching the heck out of me, like what can I focus on? And again, there's a whole bunch of context I give ChatGPT to kind of fuel this. And then I start ending up with like these progress summaries and stuff, and just to show It's, I'll get it quick. Here. Okay, so I'm kind of zooming into, these tickets. I find like that's just my mind, it's hammered into me. So I introduced this idea of tickets sometimes for my own stuff. And just to show, like, let's see here, if I open up this screenshot. This might give a view of, okay, I use ChatGPT a lot, OpenAI a lot. There are some tools and stuff that do this. This is my vision of how I want to really use this. And again, this is like super MVP that what changes less frequently, but is like really crucial to leverage it is context. So the context being, I'm a senior engineer on the team, leading, so it's new to the company. These things we said were important, like kind of like names, like, oh, so when you see this name, this is my lead or my manager kind of stuff. So the background context I find is really important, or like I want to apply concepts from the book multipliers, or even better, a specific concept from multipliers. So in my mind, what I want to do is quickly set those contexts and like save those to say like, okay, I'm going to shift gears, like there's like 10 common modes that I'm in, and I'll be able to shift through those. And then the input is, and that's kind of like, okay, this existing plugin, that's really good. Let me just highlight something. That's the input I want to operate on, given the background context, so generate. And then the instructions, I think that is where, I guess I see them as separate. Like instructions are like, okay, the context, what I'm working with, this is what I want to do with it. Tell me 5 ideas, which I might not think of as I approach leading this project, or that type of thing. And yeah, this was kind of just manually plugging this stuff in here. Like this is what I actually got at OpenAI, just for manually constructing that prompt. Let's see here, is this? Who knows what we're going to find in here? The last thing that I want to show, because I just talked about it, holding tank. So this is showing, I guess we're getting to more career, like tactical stuff, I guess, which is fine. This idea comes from the book Multipliers, which I found to be a really good read. Being shared around a lot internally, and I guess I could. I guess I didn't need to split screen that whole time. But like, there's a few ideas in here, like prioritizing for impact. That's from the effective engineer. This to me, and it's kind of a fuzzy thing, but maybe this is apparent. I can be all over the place, have a lot of ideas, excitement, and I think that's a great thing, right? But it turns out, and this is a concept from the book, Accidental Diminishers, that can sometimes have a negative effect. It's really overwhelming, like, oh my God, what idea is on now, kind of thing. So to kind of pause and reframe, put that into like a holding tank, let it age a bit, let it bake, then revisit it. Am I still excited about it? Is it still something I think is like a must-have kind of thing? Okay, yes, put into action, no. Keep the idea, but kind of commit to not acting on it, which I think is the challenge, for me sometimes. And then also kind of introducing the idea of like measuring. Okay, you acted on it. Was it impactful? Yes. Okay. Either way, like document and like share that kind of thing. And then tying to like career growth framework. I guess to say. That's what I'll say. Yeah, we can go a lot of different directions here, so I'll stop there for.
Put it in the holding tank, man.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see, okay. I think we're covering all of the topics here.
Very cool. So wait, do you pay for Obsidian and those plugins or anything?
I do pay for, so Obsidian is free. Everything you're seeing here, you can do 100% free. Except for the OpenAI stuff, which is super cheap. I mean, I'll say, if you don't have a paid OpenAI account, like I would just get one. I feel like I use it pretty heavily. Like, I'll do big generations, I'll dump in entire blog posts, you know, internal stuff that I've written, give me a summary, like, what else, like, what can I think of? And I feel like on a heavy usage, I maybe get like $3 per month, you know, just for like personal stuff. Then you get into more like the programmatic stuff, which is really cool too. A brief detour just to give a plug for ScriptKit, which is really good. I don't think I can go into it yet, but I did write a little script here, and let's see if this opens up. Just to show like the ease of automation on stuff. If you look up ScriptKit, and Zoom is right in my way, there we go. Okay, this is really cool stuff, related. It makes it so easy to write little scripts. Like I'm going to show you right now. This is the entire script. I was able to look in their community stuff and I kind of customized it a bit. Like this is it. Now, given this, I can use, and let's see, just to make it more apparent, anywhere OS wide. I can select text, go here, say like, you know, instructions, brainstorm 5 more ideas. It's a terrible prompt. But now this is hitting OpenAI, you know, with my API key and everything. So that's what's really cool is there's a lot of paid products out there that are built on OpenAI that work really well. But like, especially as developers, the bar is so low to plug in directly and build something like, you know, I mean, the bar is so low. Like if you did something totally custom, let's go back to Playground here and just load a preset. Okay, summarize the use case and trade-offs like RTC. Let's see what that says. Pick on your idea, it's just
What the video encoding.
it's just idea. And what I want to show this view code. Python or Node, whatever. This is all you need, and then you can customize. Like, oh, you want to be able to customize which model you use or the prompts and things. So, you know, I've been able to build a few like little hack week projects, or you know, just like the fun stuff like I showed with the ScriptKit. Like the bar is really low, and I didn't realize. Like I saw like people doing stuff, building stuff, and I thought, I don't have time for that, you know. But it's really like if you have an existing application. Like for example, Next.js, you have the API endpoints. Like that, and that's what I've done, you know, just take this code, the Node.js, and you know, keep your key on the server side on it. And you quickly stand up a little endpoint, but then you can custom, given some input, you could do some light prompt engineering, and now you have like a custom AI powered endpoint just right away. And you know, you could have it like generate JSON, give a few samples of some specific JSON or something, or generating English text or whatever it is that you're trying to kind of productize. So yeah, now I'm kind of curious to hear. Maybe I'll stop sharing there. That'll help me. As long as I can't see myself on the screen. Yeah.
I'm curious if you have any insider knowledge from Zapier. They seem like a really well-positioned company to make AI get things done in the real world.
Oh, yeah.
Happen anything? Are you guys
Back to screen share?
working on anything?
Okay, let's say OpenAI and here. Oh. Let's see here. GPT, OpenAI, there we go. There's a few articles, there's been some big announcements. Let's see, I should have that handy, but I don't. Short answer, we have launched, it's been live for I don't know exactly how long. I mean, it sounds like a long time. It's been like a week or two since it's been live, you know, this has all happened so fast. Yeah, so with Zapier, you can plug in anything, pipe it through OpenAI and get any output. I mean, you can pipe any input into it through OpenAI to any other input back to OpenAI. So like one thing I do with that, which is kind of cutting through chaos, is I can react to it, a bunch of stuff in Slack, like any message, and it will send it to what we call a digest, just kind of like a big text concatenation. And then I have a Zap that summarize, like, oh, given this input that's from our team channel and some context, like summarize the key points for me that I might care about. And that has been able to condense like huge threads of stuff down to, we have, there's a lot of cool examples out there. We had to say, yes, that's live now. You could use it today. All you got to do is just plug in an OpenAI API key and you're plugged in. Cool. That was exciting too. Yeah, I was able to like test it before we launched it. That was a lot of fun. Like the AI, I bet that's how I feel really grateful, especially with everything that's been going on with tech and stuff is like, it's been pretty exciting times that's happened here. And like, I'm having like heavy exposure to this kind of stuff internally and like support, encouragement to use it. So I'm like maximum hype. AI and stuff right now. It's awesome.
Have any closing remarks or anything?
No.
Thanks for coming, everybody.